Namaste. Welcome to the new session. We were considering the Annamaya Kosha. It's because we are dealing with pranayam. Pranayam has something to do with Pranamaya Kosha. It is not just respiratory breathing. It has to do something with Pranamaya Kosha. It works from there and works for it, and therefore it is called pranayam because of the kosha that we have in esoteric physiology called Pranamaya Kosha. Now, to understand Pranamaya Kosha, it became imperative that we understood the 5 koshas just in introductory aspects. That is why we are just running through the introduction to 5 koshas in order that we understand the Pranamaya Kosha in relation to other 4 koshas. That is important. Annamaya Kosha we were trying to see last time. Annamaya Kosha is our manifestation which is apparent. And it has all our identity references and identification references. So all the identity references and identification references are in Annamaya Kosha. That is the aspect of us which we can claim that I know myself. And others also know yourself. So that's why it is identity reference and identification reference. And that is our manifestation. That gives us a functional role in life. And that is why that is our manifestation. The Pranamaya Kosha underlies Annamaya Kosha. However, it permeates Annamaya Kosha as well. Now, what is this Pranamaya Kosha? Pranamaya Kosha has the entire mapping of our destiny. We take birth with a destiny. For each life, we come with a destiny of ours. There is a destiny map. There is a destiny scheme. And that is given by Pranamaya Kosha. So, to understand this, I might say that if we put a question as to why are we like this and why are we not like that, it is because we are given a scheme, we are given a map. So that is the one which is regulating our life, given by destiny. Each life we take birth with a destiny, insofar as our human manifestation is concerned. Manava Yoni, when we are taking birth in human form, we come with a destiny. That is not the case of other creatures, subhuman creatures. So that is Pranamaya Kosha. It gives us tendency body. It gives us a scheme of tendencies. And that is regulator of our manifestation. So Pranamaya is the regulator. It also gives the scheme. It gives the roadmap. It gives a plan for what we are going to be in our life. Manifest life, express life, our express profile, our express identities. So that is Pranamaya Kosha. So Pranamaya Kosha is called a tendency body. We are all born with tendencies and we go by our tendencies. The tendencies have a lot of regulation on our conduct of life. It is very difficult to set aside our tendencies and go by it. So we take birth with some tendencies, propensities, and then the varieties are enormous. If we put a question, what are human tendencies and what are human propensities, it's very difficult to standardize them. So there are many bodies of tendencies, many bodies of propensities. So in yoga psychology, it is described as Shat chakras. What are these Shat chakras? They operate our manifestation. They are operating our manifestation. So we are almost slaves of what Pranamaya Kosha offers us. We are almost bound to scheme of Pranamaya Kosha. Except in case of yoga, where you can have some access to this Pranamaya Kosha. And pranayam is something which can work on our Pranamaya Kosha. Therefore, it can be said that to some extent or even great extent, the pranayam and pranic practices can really alter to some extent or modify at least our destiny. We are not totally victims of our destiny or slaves of our destiny, provided we have some sadhanas which are circumscribing Pranamaya Kosha. So in Adhyatma sadhana, as we have seen earlier, gross, subtle, causal bodies, sthula, sukshma, karana, sharira. So Pranamaya Kosha comes somewhere there, which can help us access the scheme with which we have taken birth. So by Adhyatma and by Paramartha and by Yoga, one can really modify to some extent the destiny, and destiny will be to some extent handled by yogic practices, and pranayam has a very powerful measures. Pranayamam dahair doshan is what the scripture says. It can really burn out the defects that we have. So if we want to work on tendency body, Pranamaya Kosha is only the gateway. So Pranamaya Kosha has 6 chakras. So let's try to understand a little bit about these 6 chakras. That is the tendency body. That is the anatomy of our tendency. That is the structure of our tendencies. What are these tendencies? The first one is called Muladhara, very significant nomenclature. Mula means root, Adhara means support. So there are certain support tendencies, supportive tendencies, supporting tendencies, basic tendencies. What are these basic tendencies? These are the basic tendencies of any life form, not only human beings, because we are all biological creatures. So we are all biological manifestations. So it is common tendency to all biological creatures. That is why it is called Muladhara. What are these basic tendencies? These basic tendencies are with reference to, as Adhyatma points out, Yoga points out, it is Ahara, Nidra, Maithunam and Bhaya. So these are basic tendencies of our all biological lives. So also they are there in human beings. Ahara means our intakes. We have tendency for food. There is no one who has no vasana at all for food intakes. There will be some vasana, there will be some tendency, there will be some strong gravity with regards to food, where we say likes and dislikes. So, one biological creature cannot be living without any food, and there is tendency to procure food and consume food. So, by hook and crook, the biological creatures or even human beings will try to procure food and consume food. The tendency for food is so strong, so basic. So, that is ahara. The second tendency is nidra. The nidra is again a very strong tendency for all biological creatures, so also human beings. Human being of any strata of consciousness, most evolved to least evolved, you can't say that there is total annihilation of tendency for food and tendency for sleep. So there is not only the sleep is not only our need, there is tendency for sleep also. So some people are choosy, selective about food and sleep. So in food they will say, I just want this, I don't want anything else, I must have this. So also about sleep, some people have kind of choice and selection. They want a particular way to sleep, particular place to sleep, particular facility to sleep, particular condition to sleep. So they have lots of tantrums. So there are people who have tantrums for food. That means their vasana for food is strong. There are some people who have tantrums for sleep. That means their tendency for sleep, vasana for sleep is very strong. Some people compromise easily. So their tendency is not so strong. However, there is a tendency. One cannot be bereft of tendency for food and sleep. Ahara, nidra. Then maithunam. There is also tendency for sex. Whatever might be the status of human being, there are tendencies for sex. So that's why that is another third basic tendency for all biological creatures, and human beings too have it. Tendency for sexuality, whether married or unmarried, whether celibate or not celibate, the tendency is there. So somewhere it is very, very, very strong, and then we know such a person is really a predator. Some person is having quite moderate, temperate tendency, and then we say he is really human being, not a predator. However, the tendency is there. You can't be without that tendency. The last one is bhaya, fear. Fear for extinction. So this is the fourth basic tendency which all the biological creatures have, even human beings, however evolved in consciousness, yet they will take measures for their defense in case they are under attack. Clinging to existence is that tendency which Patanjali calls as abhinivesha. So clinging to existence, there is therefore fear of extinction. So these are four basic tendencies in all biological creatures. They are there in all human beings. Ahara, bhaya, nidra, maithunam. And the locus for that is Muladhara Chakra, very rightly given the name Muladhara. Basic need. If that is not there, then there is fear of extinction, and then one really doesn't remain a biological creature. So unexceptionally these tendencies are there in more or less degree, cultured or uncultured degree, or with tantrums or without tantrums, prepared to compromise, not prepared to compromise. So in more or less degrees these will not be leaving us. These won't be leaving us. However, you might be a most evolved person in consciousness, yet you will not be without these basic tendencies. They will be there in at least microscopic trace has to be there, even in a what you call saintly person, noble person, most evolved person in consciousness. That is Muladhara. So Muladhara Chakra gives us these basic tendencies and their degree and the typicality. Some people have typicality in these tendencies. Each one of us have a typicality, and therefore this typicality is given by Muladhara Chakra, which is according to our destiny, prarabdha. So prarabdha gives us that kind of tendency, which is of course little flexible. It can be adjusted upwards or downwards. If we are in very bad company, if we are in bad associations, it will strike the lowest level of it. If you have better company, better atmosphere and people around us, it can take us on a little higher plane of it. However, these tendencies are there. So by pranayam and by yogic process, by adhyatmic process, we can definitely evolve these basic tendencies. We can be culturing the basic tendencies. We cannot be bereft of it. We can't be expelling those. We can't be ejecting those. However, we can modify them. We can culture them. So pranayam does it, yoga does it, prana kriya does it, pranic practices do it. So that is Muladhara Chakra, the first of the 6 plexi. The second one is called Swadhishthana. Again, very significant nomenclature. Swadhishthana, Swadhishthana. Now, with the first chakra, we are all biological creatures. That's why, many times we say, after all, I am a human being. Or after all, I am a life. I am a kind of life. I am a biological species. So that means we are dealing with very basic tendencies. So these are basic tendencies common to all. Then comes Swadhisthana Chakra, which gives us scheme for our individuality. Swa means our individuality. It is Adhisthana. It is substrate for our individuality, whereby we are distinct to other people. We stand out. We are definitely different than any other person or the whole humanity. So this gives us a unique identity because of our Swadhisthana tendencies. These are typical and peculiar to us. They formulate our individuality. They underlie our individuality, and each human being has different individuality. Basic dispositions, basic traits, or the basic psychic conditions, intelligence, etc. So we take birth with certain the basic matter material of our psyche and consciousness, which gives us individuality, and that is a distinctive mark. Individual tendencies are distinctive mark of ours. That is called Swadhisthana Chakra. Swadhisthana Chakra. That gives us the Swa, the manifestation of our individuality. So pranayam needs to be working on Swadhisthana Chakra also. If you are not able to evolve your Swa, that means you are not evolving, you can't evolve. However, by yoga we know that we can evolve. Even in our individual tendencies, personal tendencies, we do evolve. Just as we said that we can evolve in our biological tendencies, which is common general to all beings and all human beings. But however, we can evolve in our tendencies for food, tendencies for sex, tendencies for that fear of extinction, ahara, bhaya, maithuna, and even nidra. We can also be having some kind of regulated sleep. Our sleeps can also be evolving. Some people, in some stages of their life, they sleep inertly, tamasic, absolutely inertly they sleep. However, if we evolve chemically ourselves, biochemically when we are evolved through yoga, then naturally our sleep is more far evolved. It is not as tamasic as it can be. Like black color can be jet black, and then you know that dark black and black, jet black and black. What's the difference? So the sleep is something like a black condition. So some people get jet black kind of sleep, and some people get a black sleep, or perhaps some people get dark brown sleep also. So sleep also has different cultural strata. The tamasic people will have very thick sleep, very inert sleep, while the sattvic people will have quite awakeful sleep. They can be woken up very easily. The tamasic people cannot be woken up easily at all. So there are different grades of intensity of sleep. So that also can be evolved. Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter says they must have regulated food, regulated awakening and sleeping habits. Yuktahar viharasya. That verse of Bhagavad Gita also says about our sleep also must be evolved. Regulated sleep, disciplined sleep. So, through pranayama and through yoga and through spiritual practices, you can evolve these basic tendencies. So also you can evolve your individual tendencies. Before commencing or embarking upon spiritual practices, what are you individually? Having embarked on spiritual practices, are you not different person? Don't you change, and should you not change? Should you not be changing? You should be changing, and you do change by yoga. So your individuality changes. It gets more cultured. That is because of pranayama working on Swadhishthana Chakra or Swadhishthana locus of tendencies, Swadhishthana. Then comes Manipura Chakra. Manipura Chakra has not much to do with tendencies. It has to do with our intakes. So it has more reference to time and space that we are in. So these are food generated tendencies. Now food means not only edible food that you take during your meal time. All that food comes to your senses. You don't take food for your eyes at dining table. You don't take food for your intelligence at the dining table. There are so many kinds of foods. To our mind, intelligence, emotions, senses, psyche, consciousness, it's not just our biological being which we feed at a dining table. There are so many forms of food that we need and we do take and we have to take. We are exposed to so many things, which depends upon time and situation, time, space and situation that we are in. Like today's generation of people will have a lot of food coming through cyber world, that computer. Now, computer can become, it's a food for modern man, contemporary modern man. Now, this kind of food was not there 200 years back and 300 years back. Now, today the children are born with some tendencies for computer. We are seeing that for the generation, newest generation, who have tendencies for even computers. And that will come sooner or later because we are eating the computer process, computer technology, computer inputs we are getting. So it's all food that comes to our intelligence, food comes to our senses. Imagine if we were, say, a millennia before existing, then we would not be having these stimulations that we have today to our intelligence, to our senses. It was a different era, I say 1,000 years back. So it depends upon time and situation that we are in. So these are food generated tendencies. The tendencies come from this life, from what we see. Now today if we see some beautiful car, we start developing tendency for a limousine. If we see a wonderful gadget, we start developing tendency for that gadget. Now this has not come from our past life, because the gadget perhaps was not there while we were in our last incarnation. That car was not there perhaps in our last incarnation, perhaps there was no car at all in our last incarnation, in case of many of us, because the cars came up in 1930s. There are many who are born before 1930s today. So a car tendency cannot come from last life, it comes from this life. So that is called Manipura Chakra, food generated tendency. Wonderful concept to describe and consider the tendency body in us. So the Manipura Chakra is in abdominal region. Now it is not only that our edible food goes to abdomen, all these foods to every aspect in our psyche, consciousness, senses, they all go to belly for tendencies, and they generate tendencies, and we develop certain tendencies which are tendencies of our present life. Almost all of them. Very, very little will be from past life, but most of it will be from present life. So that is why it is Manipura Chakra, food generated chakra, because food is eaten in this life. Food that we ate in last life has contributed for our Swadhishthana Chakra and Manipura Chakra. The food that we ate in our previous manifestations, they were inputs for our Muladhara Chakra and Swadhishthana Chakra. However, the food that we are eating today, again I repeat, it's not just food at dining table. Every kind of food to our psyche, consciousness, senses, etc. Stimulations which come to us, which are dependent on present time and space situations. So that is Manipuraka. This also can be modified. This needs to be modified in spiritual process. You can't say, I won't attend to this. You will have to attend to that also. You will have to reform there too. You will have to organize that too. You will have to set it right. You will have to do some kind of dressing, redressing to those tendencies also. And yoga does it, Adhyatma does it, spiritual practices do it. That is Manipura Chakra. Then comes Anahata Chakra. Anahata Chakra means these are hearty tendencies. See, in modern life, most of us are totally suppressing the hearty tendencies, and we are deciding on our profession or lifestyle prematurely in our age, when we are not matured. We will be deciding our profession when we are 14 and 15 and 16, which is unfortunate. And that's why most of us are messing with the mathematics of life. Because we have a kind of passion, we have a stimulation, so that's why we opt for certain professions. If some professions are very lucrative, having good prospects, we want to go for that profession. So we decide our profession in our modern academics. When do we decide our professions? Professional courses in academics. When do we decide? When we are not really matured. When we are in tender age, middle of teenage, 15, 16, that's the time one decides, I will become this, I will become that, I want to become pilot, I want to become engineer, I want to become professor, I want to become a lawyer. And then carries out the pursuit. And then more often it happens in our life that we have mismanaged. And then towards the end of the life, or when we are in helpless, hapless condition, we think that I had a wrong selection. Hearty tendencies are those things which are from our heart. So example I will give you, there might be a very recognized and professionally well established professional person, could be an engineer, could be a doctor, could be a professor or whatever, a lawyer. But there can be hearty tendency for, say, painting. So this is only identified too late in life, that I am disposed to music, I am disposed to literature, I am disposed to art, I am disposed to painting, or this is totally suppressed in the fervor, in tumult caused by the professional gravities which one wants to select in uh, earlier stages of life. So one will have carried out the pursuit to become a professional person, well educated, highly educated, etc. And then at some stage in life, these hearty tendencies start surfacing. They start giving stronger calls, and then we see so many professional people are taking up to the pursuit to music, pursuit to some art form. They don't really get any success materially, but they have heart's content. Perhaps a professional person is inclined for music and the hearty tendency for music. So he carries out pursuit in music. Nobody likes to listen to his music. It's awful. But he enjoys his music. He is not a performing artist. Nobody likes his paintings, a painter. Nobody likes his art. But he gets the contentment of the heart by just pursuit. One doesn't have to succeed there. One just has to carry out pursuit. Just the pursuit gives the contentment of the heart. And this is so important to identify in one's life, if not sooner, at least later. Otherwise, we will be stampeding the heart tendencies in our life because of the enormous gravities of our professional pursuits, etc. So those are hearty tendencies. Anahata Chakra. Anahata Chakra comes in heart region. There are certain hearty tendencies, and there are some people who are utterly failure in their material life. They don't get name, fame, money, recognition, etc., status, etc. However, they are happy people, happiness to brim perhaps to them, because they pursue the call of the heart. Heart says music. They just do music every day, and then they get the contentment of for them, which is almost brimming contentment. They are not good artists. Nobody likes their art, but they get a lot of bliss, enjoyment, contentment in their pursuit of their art form. It is because it's their hearty tendency. So most important thing about hearty tendency is that you don't have to stand out. You don't have to even succeed. You don't have to even succeed. See, in professional life, if you are not successful, are you happy? You won't be happy. You must succeed in your professional life. Then only you have happiness. Here you don't have to succeed, yet you can get happiness. So those who overlook this, they have famine of contentment. They might be successful in their life. They might be distinguished people. They can be even celebrities. Whole world might recognize them. Name, fame, money, recognition will come to them. Status will come to them. But they will not be contented, because the heart is yearning for some such pursuit, maybe in literature, maybe in art form, maybe painting, maybe music, or maybe philosophy. Sometimes one who is maybe, say, in the materialistic science field and a professional there, has some kind of inclination towards spiritual, religious aspects. Now, unless they carry out that pursuit of dharma, upasana, adhyatma, they won't get contentment. Just name, fame, money, recognition to brim doesn't give them contentment. So it is very important to cater the hearty tendencies, identify them, and just you need to carry out pursuit. You don't need any success. Just the pursuit, pure pursuit. You don't need anybody's appreciation. You don't need anybody's recognition. But you have your contentment. So if the life has to be full of contentment, one must cater these Anahata tendencies, Vishuddhi Chakra tendencies, or the hearty tendencies. Most of us totally overlook our tendencies of the heart, and we carry out life because of the gravities of materialism, the gravities of our will and volition and resoluteness, discipline, etc. enforce discipline in our own life. And then this lotus is crumbled, crushed. So, for contentment, hearty tendencies, they must be nurtured. They must be also evolved. Then, that's why through Adhyatma one can get infinite bliss. Ananda to ananta extent. Ananda, bliss to infinite extent. It is because of the secretion of contentment from the hearty tendencies, the heart plexus, Anahata Chakra. So Adhyatma will help you identify your hearty tendencies. And then you will be able to nurture those, nourish those. And then you will have contentment of the life, of lifetime, and contentment in life up to brim. Anahata Chakra. Then comes Vishuddhi Chakra. Vishuddhi Chakra, very nomenclature says it's something to do with purification. And Vishuddhi Chakra is called Saraswata Chakra. Saraswata means acquired wisdom, or the wisdom that one develops in lifetime. That is why Saraswata. One carries out a pursuit in that subject matter. May not be that a subject close to his profession, yet he carries out pursuit. I have seen some of the, say, people in the corporate world. Now they should be dealing only with commerce, trade, business, etc. However, there are some people who have inclination to study Dharma Shastra. They have inclination to, and they start profusely reading it. And they become quite thorough, quite authoritative in the realm which is not their professional realm. Like a medical practitioner can be quite knowledgeable in Dharma, quite knowledgeable in Adhyatma, because they carry out pursuit. Enormous reading about the subject matter. They read a lot, they study a lot. They study and read Dharma Shastra, Yoga Shastra, Vedanta Shastra, and they study profusely, profoundly. And that's why they become quite knowledgeable people in that realm. So it's a knowledge pursuit, whatever knowledge pursuit you carry out. Knowledge pursuit can be something totally different than your professional pursuit. As I just now gave the example. So this is knowledge pursuit. And very significantly, if you see the letters of Vishuddhi Chakra, these are all vowels. 16 vowels. To aha. So these are 16 vowels, and there is no literature without vowels. There is no language without vowels. There is no knowledge pursuit without vowels. All subjects of knowledge, in the realm of knowledge, there is literature. Now all literature means words. Words means minimum of one vowel. As I said the other day, can you utter a word which has no vowel at all? You can't utter that word. There is no word without vowel, as a matter of fact. Every word, in whatever realm, has always, invariably, minimum of one vowel and then multiple vowels. So all Saraswata sadhana, that means the pursuit of knowledge, scriptural knowledge, or theoretical knowledge, or knowledge that comes through books, knowledge that comes through words. It is all fundamentally requiring vowels, and that's why Vishuddhi Chakra has letters of all vowels. That is Saraswata Chakra. That also gives one a lot of contentment. You may not really stand out, you may not really become distinguished there, yet just the pursuit of knowledge, wherever you want to have knowledge, pursuit, if you do it, you get contentment in life. That is the Vishuddhi Chakra. Then comes the Agnya Chakra. Two-lettered Agnya Chakra in the Bhumadhya region between the brows. Agnya Chakra is the one which gives one will, volition, resoluteness. For any pursuit, whether professional or non-professional, you need to have will, volition, resoluteness, decidedness. Otherwise, your pursuit will be in a disarray. The circumstances will really spoil your pursuit. So you need some kind of resoluteness, decidedness, the will. So that is given by the Agnya Chakra. So if the Agnya Chakra is weak, someone is weak in decidedness, decisiveness, resoluteness. If somebody is strong in Agnya Chakra, then that will be strong force available. Unless you have strong force there, will, volition, resoluteness, you will not be succeeding in any endeavor. So Agnya Chakra gives you that power. You set right that power. You need to set right your determinations. What is the point in being a very determined, resolute dictator? The whole world will have detest for you. So we need to reform our resoluteness, our decidedness, our decisiveness. It's not just having it. It must be managed, it must be organized, it must be redressed. So Agnya Chakra Kriya, Agnya Chakra access helps us set right our will, volition, resoluteness, etc. They need to be cultured. So that's how we have tendencies because of which we have this decisiveness in our life. There's a tendency backing. If you don't have that tendency backing, then we will not be so resolute, so well decided, so well definite, decided, resolute. So these are 6 tendency aspects. The loci for them is in 6 chakras, and they are in Pranamaya Kosha. So therefore, whatever we do in yoga, that pranayam is pranayam because it works on Pranamaya Kosha. If the pranayam is only going to work on your lungs and the respiratory system, it is not pranayam. If you develop your lungs and if your lungs are strong and immune to any infection, respiratory infection, that's not purpose and function of pranayam primarily. It's a secondary thing. It will happen. It is a byproduct of pranayam. Main product of pranayam is to work on our tendency body, identify the tendencies, shape the tendencies, set right the tendencies, organize the tendencies, manage the tendencies, do the housekeeping of tendencies. Just having good tendencies is not sufficient. We have to do the housekeeping there. Like a kitchen is well equipped, every kitchenware is there, but if the kitchen is in mess, then the kitchen doesn't come handy. No kitchen apparatus comes handy. So it should be well set. So the housekeeping of kitchen will make our kitchen very productive. With the same resources available in the kitchen, but everything in mess, it is not productive. So similarly, these tendencies are to be identified, the tendencies are to be arranged. There must be housekeeping, there must be conservation, there must be hospitality process to set right properly, make necessary provisions, etc. So yoga does that. Conservation of tendency body, every set of tendency. There are 6 sets of tendency. Even modern psychology doesn't speak about it. They just speak about subconscious tendencies, that's all. But there are tendencies behind one's making. So, there is a tendency body which is in the anatomy of 6 chakras. This is esoteric, not exoteric anatomy. It will not be visible to you in any scan or scanning or MRI. or any mechanical insights. So yoga, pranayama does that. It does conservation, hospitality, housekeeping of tendencies. So they are well set, well organized, well arranged. If they are well arranged, they work well. If your kitchen is not well arranged, it doesn't work well. Or your office place is not well arranged, it doesn't work well. It might be having every gadget, every required thing is there, available there. But then if it's not well arranged, then nothing comes handy. And then you don't have comfortable time. So that's why we set right our office place, our workplace, we set it right. Where we are going to work, we set it right. So this is the one with which we are going to work, on which we are going to work, so we need to set it right, and pranayama does that. That's why it is on Pranamaya Kosha so much, therefore it is pranayama. We need to do regulation at the infrastructure of our manifestation, which is Pranamaya Kosha. So that is about Pranamaya Kosha, which is given by our destiny. Why are we like this? It is because we have taken birth with certain what is called as prarabdha. That is our destiny. The previous life decided our destiny, and that's why we have taken birth with a destiny. So that is prarabdha, and the entire prarabdha scheme is in Pranamaya Kosha. If you want to do some arrangement there, any settling there, redressal there, pranayama is important. That is Pranamaya Kosha. So I have given brief introduction to Pranamaya Kosha. I think that should be enough for the day, since the matter was quite terse. And of course, for Panchakosha matter is going to be terse. So a brief introduction to Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha. Pranayama will work on Annamaya Kosha as well as Pranamaya Kosha. It will do all kind of the conservation, hospitality, and housekeeping. So they operate well. Those wheels, chakras are also considered as wheels. Those wheels must work well for our life to be on the wheels. So these chakras, in the sense that they are wheels, they are actually not wheels. They are lotuses. They are plexi. They are lotus, padma. But even if they consider that as a chakra or as a wheel, if the wheels have to be rightly working, we need to attend to wheels. And pranayama works on these wheels. So the wheels start working properly. So our life is on proper wheels. So that is Pranamaya Kosha. So enough for the day. Namaskar.